Just keep paddling. Just keep paddling. Just keep paddling.
Welcome back to 340 Paddler. Today I want to talk about what to do after the 340. You've taken everything that Mother Nature had to throw at you. Wind, clouds, lightning, frogs, debris, everything that was out there. And now, having finished the race, whether it was 140 miles or 270 miles, and you're wondering, what's next? What do I do with my cool boat and all of this fitness that I suddenly have? What do I do with my legend status? So let's talk about it. First, take the time to write up your race. Not necessarily the big stories that you see on Facebook, although those are helpful because I'd love to go through them and share them on this channel as time progresses. But what I'm talking about is actually this. Looking at lessons of the 340. Make notes of what worked, what failed, and what changes you want to make. You invariably got into conversations with people that talked about, hey, I do this, and it sounded like a really good idea. And you don't want to forget it before next year's race. You don't want to repeat the same mistakes. So make that list. Put together those lessons. Put it somewhere that you're going to remember it. Tape it to your boat or your desk or your partner's desk. Then they won't let you forget it. So what worked? There are always things that work, these little things that we tend to forget. For example, some food element that turned out to be far more useful than you thought, or having your crew meet you at a checkpoint that you hadn't actually planned on meeting. What failed? Did you get a lot of blisters? Did you run into problems with a shoulder or a hip that you want to work on? Did you run into any number of different issues? Do you suddenly believe that carrying a lightning rod and putting it on your competitor's boat is a particularly good idea? That's the sort of thing you want to note. Then changes. So what kind of changes do you want to make? Do you believe that the boat was an issue? Do you believe that the paddle was an issue? Do you believe that you want to change your training? These are all things that you want to go into. And look at how people have things set up. There are years that I've looked at seating setups and borrowed from other people. There are years that I have gone out and looked at boat setups. I have looked or talked to people about how to deal with chafing and rashes. There's all sorts of things. So make sure that you write those down. So let's talk about recovery. What do you do after the race? And for some of you, it's nothing because you're not going to do the race again. That's great. For some of you, you're already planning 2024, in which case this kind of applies to you. This is for people who are repeating the race for whatever reason. And number one, you need to rest. The race is breaking you down. It's not like a 5K where there's a certain element of building up that you're getting from it, where you're developing musculature or cardio or whatever else. This race doesn't do that. It's simply too long. So spend some time resting. That means getting plenty of sleep. You may notice that you are sleeping more than usual for the next week or so. That's perfectly normal. Go ahead and do it. Consider this a pass to your boss and show him this video and say, hey, 340 Paddler said I can be late to work because I overslept. And that's fine. Have him call me. I'm sure I can explain everything to him and maybe get you that raise you were looking for. Eat. Your body needs to rebuild. Many people will find out that they will lose weight on the race, and for some that's fine, but for some it's not, and you really do need to eat so that your body can rebuild coming out of this event. So that means extra calories. It means making sure that you're eating sort of the right things. In the immediate aftermath of the race, you can eat just about anything, but getting back to a little better diet or whatever your standard diet is as you move forward is always beneficial, but give it time. If your body is screaming for something, then go ahead and eat it. It's probably okay right now. It's usually your call, but you need those building blocks so that you can recover. One of the big things that you'll be told is, active recovery, and active recovery is good, but it doesn't necessarily mean going for a run. Active recovery could be as simple as going for a walk every day for 30 minutes. It could be as simple as going out for a paddle and exploring that creek that you've never gotten to explore before because you were too interested in working out. It could be any number of things. It could be a good time to take up swimming or running and start doing those activities. That tends to be beneficial after the 340 because it gives you that ability to cross-train, which is very, very important. So make sure that you're doing something, but don't go out and try and run something crazy. Yes, there are people who have done it, and we've all read about it in the last couple of days. Jeff Holley went out and showed us that he is not so much man as machine, and he just isn't leaving enough legend for us. He went out and ran 74 miles the other day. Garen Robinette went out and did a triathlon the other day. So seriously, leave some legend for us. Leave some glory for us, Jeff and Garen. I don't know what else to say. This is also a good time to go buy a new boat. It's going to take time to get used to a new boat. Take it from someone who got in a new boat 5 days before the race and had the most painful experience of their life. You don't really want to do that. So if you're going to get a new boat, go get it now while they're on sale. There's lots of boats available. These are not the boats that are available. These were the boats that were available a couple of years ago. But there's a lot that are available on the forums now and that will become available on Facebook later on. So it's a great time to get into that horse trading. Sell your boat to someone, buy the new boat, whatever it's going to be. Maybe that's a canoe or a kayak or a surf ski or an OC1 or a Riverhawk or whatever else. Go do it. And then that way, when the spring comes, you're ready to train and outfit for that boat rather than working with a different boat and then swapping immediately before the race. Also, prices tend to be better in the fall than they are in the spring. Plan a new training routine. So when you're going out there and you're thinking about, hey, I want to do some new things. I want to be able to, sub 50. I want to be sub 60. I want to do better than this year. I want to finish the 340, whatever it is. It's a great time to plan a new routine because you have 6 to 8 weeks to take off. And let me give you an example from Joe Mann. Now, Joe Mann is not so much man as robot, but he is, when he's not off, saving the world or whatever else he does in his off time, he tends to take off for 6 to 8 weeks after the race. Probably a good example to work with. You may not be Joe Mann, but if he's taking 6 to 8 weeks off, it's a pretty good bet that that's a good idea for the rest of us. Now, during this time, you could, for example, work with a personal trainer. This is good. Now, most personal trainers are not going to have a lot of experience with ultramarathon kayak racing. After all, almost no one does. However, they can help you with weaknesses. They can help you with general fitness. And I will tell you, general fitness will be good enough to get you into the top 5 of just about any division is simple general fitness. The fitter the person, the better. It doesn't even have to be very specific paddle training for most of the year. So personal trainer can be good. This is a good time to go, and if you've damaged something, especially something asymmetrical, so for example, one shoulder, one hip have been giving you problems, then this is the time to go and get that dealt with. So maybe go find a PT, physical therapist, and work with them for a little bit. It's a good time to work on any of those weaknesses that you had. It's also a good time to work on your plan. Now, your plan could be any number of things. It could be body weight. It could be erg. I know people who are running at the top of the field who will not touch an ergometer, who will do just about anything else. Running, mountain biking, hiking, anything to avoid an ergometer, and that's fine. There are people who do almost nothing but weight training, and that's fine. They've won the race. There's nothing there that says you have to do one thing or the other. The most important thing is to be consistent with whatever it is you choose. So this is a good time to pick something and kind of figure out what that calendar is going to look like. For me, I work out a calendar with my workouts every day starting in November or so and running through the remainder of the year. Up until then, I pretty much have a ballpark idea of what I'm doing on any given day. I do that because I don't like having to think about what it is I'm going to need to do tomorrow. I'd rather get out of bed knowing full well what the workout is today. So do what works for you, but it's a good time to work on those plans. And keep in mind, working on, for example, cardio fitness or base fitness takes a long time, 6 to 9 months. So that would be where I would start. Don't worry about things like VO2 max and sprint and threshold and everything else until you get to like March, April. Now, some people will argue with that, and that's fine. But I find that it's not really necessary to do any of that until much later in the year. And don't think that you're going to keep all of your fitness from now until March or April. It's simply not going to happen. You will burn out before you do that. So think of it as rebuilding, maintaining what you can, rebuilding, and moving forward. And then you need to plan for 2024. This is the time when people will start talking about teams and tandems. This is the time to start considering what it is you want to do in 2024. Maybe it's getting a faster boat. Maybe it's just working on what your goals are going to be. Are you trying to be a top boat? Are you trying to simply get to the finish? Who knows? For many of us, especially this year, it might just be that, hey, next year I'm just trying to finish and I found some weaknesses. I'd like to finish. I'd like to be a little stronger next year. And that's fantastic. In some cases, like here, maybe they want to get a rudder for that boat because I don't know who this team is, but there seems to be a thing missing on the back of the boat. If you're going to put all of this stuff together, put a rudder on the boat. Anyway, lots of things that you can think of when you start planning for 2024. And amongst those plans could be a trip to Mudwarts. Yes, Mike, Sally O'Donnell's ground crew, is opening a school of witchcraft and muddery, which will teach you how to swim out to the end of a pile of debris or wing dike and use your wizarding powers to clear the debris so that your paddler can get into chamois. It's really a remarkable skill, and if you get in touch with him, I'm sure he will be happy to tell you about Mudwarts and the tuition and what it takes to cast those spells, like Cleriamus or Get Back in the Boatus. But until you do that, keep thinking about paddling, take care of yourself, and keep your paddle in the water.